All right. Welcome, everyone, to the School of Greatness podcast. Very excited about our guest today. His name is Travis Pastrana. Thanks for coming on, my man.
Thank you for having me.
I got to be careful.
No, I was like, all right, let's get that.
I want to grab you harder.
Thank you.
But you dislocated your shoulder recently, right?
Yeah, last week. So it's always something with us, though.
It's always something.
Plus, getting old, falling apart. Can't hang with the kids anymore.
What's the longest you've gone without having a major injury?
This last time was probably the longest. It's been a little over a year.
Wow, it must be amazing.
2 kids, so I'm kind of,
taking it easier.
Not intentionally.
Only doing 3 backflips, not going for 4.
Exactly.
Yeah. Take it a little easier.
Keep the basics.
100-foot jumps, not 200, right?
Right. Yeah. All the, well, I mean, it depends on the jump. You can still do 200. Maybe do an airbag,
Exactly. I want to read your bio really quick. Travis Pastrana is an American motorsports competitor and stunt performer who has won championships and X Games gold medals in several events, including supercross, motocross, freestyle motocross, and rally racing. He runs a show called Nitro. Circus is where I connected with you and one of the guys on the team, Trip, who was a listener of the podcast. And he previously competed in the NASCAR Nationwide Series for Roush Fenway Racing. Currently competes in the Global Rallycross Championship, driving number 199. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And he has also appeared in films like X Games, the movie, and many other things like ridiculousness.
Is X Games the movie? Is that considered a film?
I guess.
All right, there we go. We're moving on up.
Is this accurate bio, or did I miss something?
Yeah, that's
all accurate, right?
Yeah, it sounds good, man.
Sounds good enough.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't even know really what I do for a living, but it's
but you've made a living doing something.
Yeah, something.
And it's fascinating because more and more people are making a living around their passion or just their creative artistry, which is what I think you are. You're a creative athlete artist.
Well, no, I appreciate that. And the coolest part, I mean, it was kind of an interesting upbringing with my dad, who was Marine, and then motocross, which was very strict as far as, you work hard, you're running every day, you're cycling every day, you're riding every day,
right.
And then kind of transitioning into freestyle, where it goes from you would knock your grandma down on the last turn to take the win,
sure.
to I was going against some Meadow Militia and Brian Deegan, and I'm like, I'm 15 years old, and these guys are all tattooed up and hardcore and this and that. And
Mohawks.
Yeah, like everything and piercings and whatever. And Brian Deegan comes up, he's like, dude, that run was so awesome, man. It's good. Hey, Miss Pastrana, how are you doing? And I'm like, wait, the image and the, they were just like having fun. And I was like, kind of these two worlds that kind of collided. I was like, wait, you can have fun and still
right.
like, this is weird. So.
And was anyone making money when you started? Because you were really 15 when you came on the scene, is that right? Around that age when you kind of became
15
known?
for action sports stuff. But so for me, motocross was always, racing's been around since people could ride motorcycles.
Right.
You're trying to race stuff,
Sure.
But at the end of the day, like racing was where the money was. That's where the sponsors were. That's where my parents were, encouraging me to go. That's what we had worked so hard. I mean, my dad and my mom, they had the house was paid off when I was 4, and by the time I was 8, we had a mortgage on the house. My dad sold the boat, then he sold the Harley, then we got our second mortgage on the house, and just to get to that racing, and then all
for
this
you to pay for your stuff,
to pay for my stuff
because it's expensive, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, my dad's construction works with his 4 of his brothers, and they would actually take pay cuts to cover gas to get us from Maryland to Florida to race with the top guys.
Wow.
When I was 10, 11, 12, like when most parents are complaining about driving across town, we're driving cross country
yeah.
to hit the nationals and stuff. And it was awesome. But then freestyle came out, and I'm like, this is so much more fun. Why would I try to like stay low off the jumps when I can see how big I can go, what I can do? And it was an interesting dynamic right as it was kind of turning there.
Who was more influential for you growing up, your mom or your dad?
As far as education was my mom. As far as my dad always said, he was military. He's like, look, my uncle was quarterback for Denver Broncos for 2 years. He goes, look, he was by far and away the best athlete that Maryland has ever seen, that Annapolis has ever seen. He did everything. He made it almost all the way there. He got knocked out by Bubba Smith, and he didn't really make, he made enough to make it for those years.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came back working construction with the family. And my dad's like, look, no matter how good you are at sports, you're always going to end up right back here with the family working construction. So he goes, you get your good grades, you work hard. He goes, I don't care if you're sick. I don't care what. This is when I'm 4th, 5th grade.
Right.
He goes, you get up and you run a mile. It's not a long time, not a long way. You run 1 mile before school every day, and I will drive to Florida on the weekends. You ask me to go practice every day after school, and I'll drive to Florida on the weekends. If you don't, any day, I don't mind. I'll get the Harley back. I'll get the bike back. I'll get the boat back. And we're not going to Florida on the weekend. So
you got up every morning and ran a mile.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much. It was just, for him, it was just that motivation. Like, you show me you're motivated.
Discipline, yeah.
So instead of when most parents were like, oh, you have to do this, my dad was like, hey, slow down. Why are you doing those jumps? Don't, like, just, you're not going to make it, kid. But look, as long as you keep trying, I'll put in equal effort. And that was, kind of how I made it to where I did, was just having fun.
Amazing. Did you play any other sports, like traditional sports?
Traditional sports, I mean, until I was probably 8, so nothing
Right.
serious.
What was basketball and baseball?
Yeah, I mean, basketballs, everyone on my team said don't shoot. I couldn't. My hand coordination was bad. My uncle told me never get into football, so I never really knew how to throw or catch.
So loved it with the pain you liked.
Wrestling was my thing, man. But then I was just always wrestling people a lot older because I was always just so tall as a kid. So I don't know if you were tall as a kid, but
I was like this tall when I was 11 or something.
Yeah, you see, it's not good for wrestling.
It's the worst. Everyone would just dive at my legs, and I'd be like on the mat, And you're from Maryland, so you must be a big fan of Michael Phelps, right?
He's been crushing it. Yes,
it's unbelievable. I was just there last week, and I saw him in the semifinals for a race, and it was just really cool to see his whole process from start to finish and how he executes. It's amazing.
I absolutely love how he goes out and he knows now what it takes to get there. And everyone's like, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're not training hard enough. And then he goes out
He knows how to do it the last second,
Yeah, it's like Ledeski or whatever. She
crushes it.
So after 3 days,
it's unbelievable.
Maryland had the second highest country count.
I saw your Instagram.
Yes, the Maryland games.
That's hilarious. The Maryland games. Are you friends with both of them, or?
No. I mean, I've seen Michael at a couple of the different things, but
right.
But no, for sure, it's just cool. I mean, they're it's around the same area.
And is I might be Isn't anything that you're doing in the Olympics, or is it happening? Are the events you're doing going to be coming in the Olympics?
Right now, well, my wife's a skateboarder. So she's pretty excited because skateboarding just got announced for 2020.
Yeah, that's cool.
So she's on the fence. She's like,
she's getting a little older
there's
too,
a
right?
lot of younger kids coming up. She's, I mean, for skating, there's 13, 14-year-old kids
freaks.
that are just crushing it. So my wife at, 27, 28, she's like, I'm going to be in my 30s when the next Olympics comes. So right now she's like, I'm still top 5, but I could go back and maybe I don't know.
That's
it's going to be
tricky.
interesting.
Are you going to try to go for anything? I guess it's only skateboarding, right?
No, nothing with motors. I pretty much, I'm not like the rest of my family. I pretty much need a throttle or falling or something to, maybe diving. I don't know. I'm just not I can't do handstands anymore though. So that takes me out.
Yeah, your shoulders are too messed up. It's funny. I play with the USA national men's handball team handball. I don't know if you've ever seen that sport.
I was watching it 3 days ago.
It's amazing, right?
Yes.
And we are the only, the USA is the only sport where we're not represented is handball. So we're representing every other activity in sport except for handball. So it's unfortunate we didn't qualify. We haven't qualified in 20 years. But we'll see in the next 4 years if I want to keep doing it. It's just a lot of work.
Now, I have to ask, this is way off subject, but, so in Maryland, lacrosse, that's our sport. I mean, actually,
the Northeast is Maryland.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's our our state sport. That and jousting, which I think is pretty awesome. So it's a coast state sport. But I just think it's interesting that field hockey is what the girls that don't want to get hit with lacrosse sticks do, and yet field hockey was
intense.
It is intense, but it was in the Olympics.
It is in the Olympics.
Now is lacrosse not? I don't think lacrosse is in the Olympics.
I don't think it is.
But why would they do the field hockey?
Field hockey is huge around the world. And I think that's why. I don't know if lacrosse is big around the world.
No, pretty much just Colorado and East Coast.
That's it, right? Yeah. So I know that a lot of other countries are big into field hockey.
Are we represented in field hockey?
I would think we have to have a team there. I didn't see a team there, but
I would feel like, man, I was like, if I was a lacrosse player, I'd be like, man, I don't know that I want to go field hockey right now.
No, those sticks are scary and those hard. I don't know. I wouldn't want to have my head down there when everyone's hitting you right in the face like that in the field hockey. But I love the Olympics. Are you a big fan?
I am a big fan. I'm a big fan of any sports.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of sports, but I love watching them. I'm just a big sports fan. But the Olympics are tough because every time you're watching, I want to see the sports. And America does a great job of building up the athletes and the stories. And my mom and everyone's so into it, but I'm like, I just go online and I just want to watch the events. I don't want to be told what
the stories.
The stories are great. I mean, I know everyone loves the stories, but I just like the sports.
I hear you. What's the favorite sport for you to watch?
Oh man, Obviously with just Phelps, I always like to watch his events. So I guess I am. I'm a sucker for personalities as well. So all right, I maybe fall in that category. But gymnastics, I think, is always cool, and especially since the Atlanta Games in '96, where the girls team crushed it. You always just kind of, you're like, all right,
rooting for them. Yeah, it's cool. I got to watch them as well. It's a lot of fun. I'm curious, because you are in such an extreme sport that you have a lot of friends who do the same things, but not all of them have made it, right? You've experienced some friends who have passed on. Is that correct?
Yeah, without a doubt.
How many friends would you say, like close friends, have not made it from different?
Well, I mean, you had Lusk was the X Games champion in moto, and he went down, and there's a lot of, you have a lot of friends that have serious injuries, whether they're paralyzed or can't do what they love to do.
Really?
And it's a really interesting dynamic, because everyone just assumes if you're in the X Games or World Games or whatever, you're making all this money. But for the most part, it's like going to college. You got to pay off that debt the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And your family and everyone put everything into most of these riders, and a lot of them, their fallback, for the most part. I was very fortunate that my mom was very adamant about education and graduating high school early and everything before I could turn pro. But a lot of these guys, they're great athletes. They're amazingly intelligent. They're smart. They're entrepreneurs. They're great. But when they lose what their whole life has been about, their whole passion, there's a really tough time to, what do you do when all you did your entire life was ride dirt bikes and bicycles and run, and then you can't walk anymore. So that's, and then
it's like their identity is gone.
Yeah, and you got guys like David Bailey, who went in. He was, 1985, 86 supercross champion, was right on top of his game, got paralyzed, went through some dark times, and then he came back and won Ironman.
Wow.
Which is, 2.5 mile swim or whatever, a 110-mile bicycle, but everything with David then was with his arms, and then
because he couldn't walk, so he was doing it all with his arms.
Yeah, everything's
biking and
So it's interesting to see the transition of what these guys can make, and unfortunately, I think skydiving, base jumping
is the worst, right? So many guys every year.
Because if you want to be the top at whatever you do, if you want to excel in whatever you do, you make mistakes. You're going to push yourself a little past, and even some things that aren't in your control. I mean, you might have a gust of wind or a burble or the chute. You might not have packed it just right, or it opened a little funny, or it had a little wind gust. And that's the one thing my wife is really, after Shane McConkey, who he had really slowed down a lot. He was a free skier, world champion, just amazing personality, made a living in something that no one said was possible to make a living, traveled the world, got married, had his daughter, and was like, just slowing down. So he only did a couple trips a year, not doing the gnarly stuff. And he was ski-based jumping, just fun jump with his friends. And the ski
with a parachute.
Ski with a parachute, and the ski didn't, it froze. So it didn't, one ski came off, one ski didn't, put him on his back. And in base jumping, you have a couple seconds before you hit, you don't have time to fix errors. So if you're pushing at all, if you're even taking any risk, it bites you. And when it bites you, there's not, oh man, that was
chance.
I broke a leg. No, it's you're falling out of the sky. So that's, my wife is, as crazy as she is and as much on the same page. She's like, when you go skydive's pretty safe,
different.
but that we lost Eric Roner last year, and which is, it was really, really tough. He's got 2 kids.
Yeah.
He had slowed down so much, and he was our safety guy. He was the guy that came on and was like, okay, nope, this is too windy. And he would pull everyone back. And there's so many times we're walking back down from mountains or, climate. We, scoped out buildings. There's hypothetically, not me, but other people.
Right.
To figure out how to get up to antennas and all this stuff. And he was always the one, nope, it's too windy. No, we'll go back down. Hey, we might lose our parachutes. You might, the cops are not going to be happy, but we can't jump right now because it's not worth the risk. And to have that guy, that mentality, someone that loved his family so much that would have done anything. He was working so many different things to stay in the industry and the sport, and he dies on a skydive, not even a base jump, and that really took our whole community back to say, okay, you warm up with the backflip in the morning, but you're still 40 feet off the ground with a 220-pound motorcycle over your head. Make sure you turn the gas on. It's the stupid stuff. It's like, this is not, it's every day to us, but it's not, nothing can be taken for granted. Even driving to work every morning, you
never know.
That's just,
you never
pay
know.
attention.
Yeah, of course. How does that I mean, how do you navigate through that when something like that happens? Do you just go out and continue riding and doing your thing? Do you reevaluate? Do you say, I'm going to hold back a little bit,
Well, I'd rather try and fail than fail to try. It's kind of like the motto that I've always grown up in. And, I would rather live life and show my kids. They're like, how with kids can you ride dirt bikes? Can you, do this stuff? I said, well, I want to show my daughters that when they grow up, they don't have to go to a 9-to-5 job that they absolutely hate, or they can if they want to. But there are other options. You can follow your passion.
Yeah.
If you're, even if you're not making as much money, even if you're working 3 times the hours, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's what I've been really fortunate that my parents allowed me to chase this dream of action sports before action sports was a thing. They said, well, you're going to end up construction or whatever, but if you're happy, live every day. And, that if you can make it 3 days, make it 3 days. If you can make it a year, make it a year. Any time that you can spend doing what you love is not wasted time. And, I've been very fortunate that I found that most of the people that I'm surrounded by have just been so passionate that they've found a way, like yourself. You find a way to make what you love work.
Yeah. So true. And it's something we talk about at the School of Greatness is really following the thing that you love the most and figuring out how to make a full-time income around that. And maybe you have to do some side jobs that you don't enjoy on the process until you figure out how to make more money. But I just believe, like, what's the point of living if we're not doing what we love? Like, what's the point if we're not following a dream?
No,
What are we just living to survive? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, that's 100%. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. It's just, for me, what would kill me more, people were like, you get injured all the time. Like right now I had a week off and I went and dislocated my shoulder and I need rotator cuff surgery. It's like, but they're like, why do you keep hurting yourself? And I said, well,
you're not trying to hurt yourself.
I'm not, well, definitely not trying to, but when I'm hurt, the thing that I hate most about being hurt is that I can't do what I love.
That's it.
So why would I stop doing what I love so I'm not hurt? Like I don't like being hurt. I don't like pain, but it's better than waking up without a passion.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, doing something you don't love or just to make money and survive. Man, was there ever a jump or stunt that you did that you're like, I may not make it?
Well, hindsight is 20/20.
Or you were like in the air, you're like, this is the worst idea ever, or
yeah, every day of my life on Nitro Circus. Like it's like, all right, I'm gonna flip a monster truck. I'm like, this is gonna be awesome.
flip a monster truck?
Yeah, well now they do double flips. I mean, it was a pioneer. Gosh. It was one of those. So I had never driven a monster truck before. So I built this ramp. It's like 20 foot tall. I'm like, all right. I'm like, yeah, that'll make it. And then the monster truck got there. The monster truck's huge. I was like, my math was way off. Like, this is never gonna work. Like the ramp needs to be twice as big. I felt like that guy in Zoolander. I was like, no, it'd be at least 5 times bigger. So I got in the truck and I'm like, it's not gonna work. And my head's like 2 inches from the top. I'm like, I'm going to land directly upside down. And yeah, I've got a roll cage and everything, but I've got 2 inches of like, I'm strapped in. Like I can't, I'm going to break every bone in my body. And they're like, and action. I'm like,
what'd you do?
Well, I went for it. I was like, well, that's one thing my dad always said. Hey, if you say you're going to do something, don't open your mouth. Because if you say you're going to do it, back it up.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I'd say all of the moments in my life that I've been the dumbest moments of my life have all been because I followed that thing that my dad said. He goes, if you open your mouth, you got to do it. So I'm my hero. First time I did something really stupid, I told my hero, Guy Cooper, I was at a national championship event, all the sponsors there, everything. Like my parents spent the last dime to get there. And in practice, right before I went out, I was like, hey, Mr. Cooper. I was like, yeah. He's like, do you see that big jump over there? I was like, can you do it? He's like, no, I don't know if I, because he was like, can you do it? I was like, yeah, I could do it. He's like, I'll be watching. I looked at my dad's like, you can't, like the bike physically won't make this. I'm like 10, 11 years old, whatever, on an 80cc. Only the 250 guys were doing it. One guy on the 250s. So I came last lap and I was like, well, I said I was going to do it. Went as fast as I could. I knew 200 foot before the jump it wasn't going to work.
Oh my gosh.
Took off, flew, 10, 11 years old. I'm flying 150 feet through the air. Land, and thank goodness the bike pretty much disintegrated on landing. So all the spokes on the tire broke, the forks hit the ground, they went, the handlebars completely bent, and it was the softest. Like I had like 2 black eyes, but my dad was like, what do we do now? That was like $2,000. The bike is completely disintegrated.
So you landed.
I didn't make the jump. So if this is the takeoff and this is the landing, I landed right where I thought I was going to.
Gotcha.
Short.
Yeah.
So I landed on an uphill basically instead of the downhill.
Okay. But it kind of exploded in a place where you...
The whole bike just caved in. So not only did I get the foot of travel from the motorcycle, but I got the half a foot from the wheel and then the forks and then the handlebars. It wasn't great, but like at the end of the day, I didn't break anything.
You didn't die. Yeah,
I didn't die.
Amazing.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
But those are the worst when you call yourself out like at X Games or something. You're like, I got this, and then like maybe the trick was pretty close when you said you committed to it, and then it didn't get any closer.
Would you ever call yourself out in a trick where you could potentially die? Like skydiving or something like that,
100%. But there's a different mentality of being 10, 11, 12, 15, 22, trying to make a name for yourself, trying to be in like risk to reward is always changing. For me, if everyone goes, oh, haha, you backed out, oh, you're lame. I'm like,
I'm alive.
I've got 2 kids, family. Like I like my life. We're good.
But when you're 15, it's different.
When you're 15, and not to say that you're going to take huge risk, but you're going to say, okay, you know what? I might not make this, but if I do, it's worth it. So for me, I think the closest I ever came to death was probably I went in the base jumping, went in the Grand Canyon, did a double backflip, jumped off, did a front flip, and I was like, oh, I still have time. So I did another front flip, but when I did it, I noticed the bike was over me, like because it had kind of flown and I had dropped faster. So at that point, I looked back up and was like, okay, we're clear. And I looked down, and the chute opens, in about a second. But I was just about a second above the ground. So I threw the parachute, and it was weird. Time stopped, and I'm falling, and there's nothing because if you look, the wind burble actually takes and rotates the chute. And I'd already thrown it. So I'm just
stared at the ground.
I'm staring at it because on a motorcycle or every other time in my life, what makes a great athlete in our sports is being able to jump off the bike and be like, all right, if I don't jump off, I'm going to break my neck. But if I jump off and do this, this, and this, and tumble like this, I'll only break my ankle.
Right.
And you have to be, most people can't say, they just freeze. They're like, best case scenario still sucks. Where we're always, thinking, what's the best case? Like a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I can't throw there. What if I throw here?
Yeah.
Except the ball's your body, and I was falling, and I had nothing to do. I was just like, I have to stay in this perfect position, and I really hope that chute opens in the next half a second.
Wow.
And it did, kind of. It half opened, and then I tumbled down and broke my foot and got some cactus in my butt, but it was all right.
That was it, huh?
Yeah, I landed on a really steep cliff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some scary stuff.
Yeah.
How do you approach, or actually, is there ever a stunt you did where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make this, but you pulled it off beautifully? Where you're like, I can't believe that just happened.
Double backflip. X Games. It's funny because now a double backflip isn't that big of a deal. But 2006, no one, flips had just been kind of out for not very long. So it was kind of one of those things where I really wanted to switch to rally. I was racing Colin McRae, and I was a tenth of a second behind, like one of the greatest rally drivers of all time. The first chance that I had to win a rally, I'm Factory Subaru, all of my teams there, and that final, because we did all the stages up to the final, had all happened. And I'm like, my career in rally depends on me not messing myself up right now. Like everyone's there. And that was the only thing. But I'm like, you know what? I hate those guys that go, Monday I got to go to work. So I would do that, but, I got to work on Monday. And I'm like, you know what? I got to work tomorrow too. But, let's pull this off.
Wow.
I said I could do it. I could do it. And it worked.
And you practiced it many times in like a pit, I'm assuming? Or
I did 50 a day for the 2 months before, but out of the 50, I was 8 of 10.
Well, it's
not
good. Bad.
If the lotto was 8 out of 10, you take it every day. But when it's your body, and when the other one, she'd come down and maybe broke a neck, maybe worse. So I convinced myself, instead of being scared, I was like, all right, are you going to do it? I said, yes.
So you committed to it in your mind first.
I completely committed to it, and I was like, well, I'm going to make the best of whatever happens. I'm going to pull like hell. I'm going to do everything that I can. I'm going to try to spot the landing the best that I can. If anything goes wrong, we'll try to. And I was like, you know what? I'm probably going to crash. And I'm okay with that. And I dropped in thinking, do whatever you can. And it worked.
It worked. Wow. Maybe because you said like the worst case scenario could happen and I'm probably going to crash. So let's just make sure I do whatever I can to not crash now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But I had to be okay with crashing before.
You'd accept what could happen.
It was what's that movie was it number 6 or no? What was the
who's in it?
That's man. You know what? I'm drawing blanks here. Drawing blanks. So forget I even said that.
Sports movie?
No. Some guy with a mask. Basically, they were futuristic. Came out maybe 10, 12 years ago, and the guy was experimented on for the surgery, and he had to accept that he was going to die before he could make it. Anyway,
okay, cool.
Never mind. And then I found $10.
All right,
makes every story better.
There you go. I like it.
Concussions? I don't know. Blame it on something.
What's your thought process going into a big stunt? That's something that no one's ever done. You know, that maybe you'll take months to plan. I'm assuming, right? You take months to plan. You did the longest jump in a car. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Is that still the record? The longest.
Still the record for cars. Yes.
For cars. So how long does something like that take to prepare, to calculate? How many people are on the team, and then what's your mental process getting ready for a big stunt?
Well, it's kind of similar. Like by the time you're doing something in front of the masses, you've got a pretty good understanding, at least I hope, of of what your capabilities are, what the car capabilities are, what the bike, what the, like even watching the guy a couple weeks ago jump from the plane into the net. He knew.
I didn't see it exactly, but I saw kind of like it was happening. I can't believe the guy landed.
Yeah,
without a parachute, right?
Land.
Is that what happened?
Yes,
what happened?
Yes, sir. He landed in a net. It was good.
No parachute.
No parachute. Straight to
from
the
the sky.
Yes, sir.
That's insane, isn't it?
Completely insane.
Would you ever consider that?
100 by 100. Well, it was interesting because there was a lot of us considering it, but there's a difference between considering it and
doing it.
And we were thinking 300 by 300, where he said 100 by 100. I was like, that's a completely different stunt. But he's good. He knew what it would take. So for me, like the Red Bull New Year No Limits, every year they go to all their athletes and they say, okay, what can we do that will help your sport? And I went to him. I said, look, we got beat last year in the championship because our car wouldn't take the hits that Ken Block was doing. He was jumping further. He was outperforming us in areas that we physically we weren't capable of doing. We would break the car. So I said, we need a stronger car, and I'd like to do a big jump. And they said, okay, well, what's his world record? It's 141 feet. They said, okay, let's try to double it, which we were like 10 feet short of doubling it. But, so we were basically like, okay, what can we do that's going to make these cars better, that's also going to be entertaining, that's going to help you in the future? And, we won the next 4 straight Rally America championships with Subaru, and a lot of it was because of that foundation, which is kind of cool to do more than one thing at a time. And that's what Nitro is always trying to do now as well, is, kind of step up to say, all right, help me help you. You want to do 4 flips? All right, what do we need? We need bigger ramps. We need better safety. We need landing ramps that have airbags. And then we take the airbags off and we use resi. And then, if you want to do a world record, it's probably got to be without resi. So make sure you have it dialed on that, and then we'll take it off for one time.
Wow.
You get that world record, and, let's do it safe.
Wow. Tell me about Nitro Circus. How did that get started, and what's your involvement, and where is it headed?
All great questions. Nitro Circus kind of started when I got hurt. I was hurt quite a bit racing motocross.
Which year? Every year.
Every year. But this was 2002.
Okay.
2001, 2002, and Greg Godfrey, who was from Mormon, from Salt Lake City. He went out to California. He was a key grip on Touched by an Angel. He's like, I love movies, but I love motorcycles. I want to make movies about motorcycles.
Sure.
And I was like, that makes sense. But he couldn't get the riders. So I was like, well, there's guys. I have the first ever foam pit. There's guys at my house all the time. In Maryland.
Right, yep.
Learning new tricks, trying stuff that's never been tried. So he sent me a camera. I didn't know anything about filming, but, Sony 2000, the
Sure.
white balance was never set. Nothing like the footage quality was horrible, but the footage content was just pure and real. And it was before YouTube really took off and everything. So people just got this huge following. And then, it was really cool because Johnny Knoxville had called me up and when Evel Knievel passed away and said, look, we are doing a 24-hour takeover of MTV. And he said, come up with a few stunts. So I wrote down a list of about 5,000 stunts. And he goes, can you do any of them? I said, I don't know. We'll try them all. And 2 weeks later, he got us a show on MTV. And then we started with a live show. And then we started traveling the world, finding more crazy people just like us. I mean, it's not that new for rednecks and farmers and people
do crazy
build
stunts.
ramps, you put your 2x4 and your plywood and you jump your bikes and then your cars. And it just evolves. But as this evolved, we found that we could actually, people like to watch it. People that didn't like to do it like to watch it. People that like to do it joined us.
Yeah.
And we just got this huge crew traveling the world, having a good time with all our friends and families. And now we're at a point where it's really cool because Nitro can, we just did World Games, which was, like a world championship event. But
it's kind of like your version of X Games, or what is this?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's pretty much the big air. So instead of going around and saying, okay, what's the most technical? We say, who can go the biggest and do something that's never been done?
The most dangerous.
But then no contest before had ever used airbag landings. I'm talking small, like not, like you land in a pillow. You can still get hurt, but we had not one single broken bone. And we had, I think, over 50 world's first. So tricks that no one had ever done before.
So the safest games.
It was the safest games with the most innovation that had ever been done, which for us was a huge step. And we caught a little flack from some of the guys to be like, hey, look, you can't have an official world record to something that's not wood or dirt or whatnot. But at the end of the day, these guys could try it. If you land it, you land it. If you don't land it, you can get back up. And you might not be happy about it. You might be knocked out yourself, right? I dislocated my shoulder to a resi. Like it's not foolproof.
What's a resi? Just so I'm.
Oh, sorry. A resi is either foam, like say a foot or 2 foot of foam
on a ramp,
on a down ramp with like a small sheet of plastic over the top. So
you can still land it and keep going, is what you're saying.
Land and ride out.
Gotcha.
But usually you slide. So if you land without the bike, without the rubber tires, as long as your shoes aren't that exact same compound, your feet, everything slides out, so you don't usually break stuff.
Gotcha.
Still was a little bit tough with concussion, so we started, for the motorcycle side, actually covering that with a little bit of carpet as well, which just takes that after all the NFL stuff, and then with Dave Mira, definitely something that my job is actually safety now, I guess, for me at Nitro Circus, which is scary, but also at the same time, I've been there, I understand what kind of works, and when someone says they want to do something that's never been done, we got to take a step back and say, okay, it can be done, but how can we do this without killing somebody?
Yes.
Josh Sheehan did a triple backflip on a dirt bike, 44-foot tall takeoff, 65-foot tall landing, 100 feet in the air. He broke a couple ribs, was pissing blood for a little bit on one of the things, but no real injuries. So he didn't die.
Oh my gosh.
I think, and we learned a lot about the safety bags and everything. So, that we used for World Games.
So you're constantly innovating the sport and what's possible for the human body.
Exactly. And what's not possible, like if you go too high, you need to have safer landings. And then if you have safer landings, you can go higher. So it's kind of
And when did it start with when you were traveling the world with this?
This was 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Do you know that, Greg?
It started in 2010.
2010.
Yeah. 2010 as a tour.
Worldwide ever since.
Gotcha. So Nitro Circus officially started in 2010.
Well, the Nitro Circus Live.
So
Nitro Circus, the DVDs, started in 2002.
2002.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And it's just been evolving ever since. So you're one of the original founders, members.
There was 2 of us. Yeah, Greg Godfrey, who knew something about film, and myself, who knew something about riding dirt bikes, and then
that's it.
And it just keeps growing.
And now it's just this mega business as well that you guys have continued to build.
It's a wild thing because I don't like business. I don't like, I feel like if you're passionate enough, you'll find a way. But my job is to be at that table and to make sure that everyone at that table is smarter than I am.
Of course.
And if that is the case, I feel like I've done my job.
Of course, yeah. You can be the most talented.
Yeah, there we go. I'll work on the ramps.
Yes.
I'll work on this niche. But so the company has gone bigger. Definitely the
riders.
The riders guide it. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff a lot of the riders know about especially the younger guys, the scooter kids that are coming up. They're crushing it, by the way. They know a lot about the social media, and they all film their own stuff. The guys.
What do you mean by scooters?
Scooters like pretty much proto scooters, razor scooters.
Razors.
Yeah, like
little 1 foot where those guys are freaks. I've seen some of those guys on Instagram just do crazy tricks.
They've been made fun of their whole lives,
but now they're starting to take off a little, right?
And they are taking over
they're
action
making money.
sports. They are.
These little 16-year-olds, one of these guys follows me. I forget his name. He's got, I don't know, like 500,000 followers on Instagram, and he's just throwing camps where hundreds of kids are coming to, and
they're doing so. We got our
it's crazy.
Biggest athlete on Nitro Circus is Ryan Williams, our Willie, and everyone gave him such a hard time he was so amazing, but on a scooter. So he borrows someone's
scooter
kid.
Guy.
So
he's the biggest athlete at your.
He's the most well-known athlete on Nitro Circus. Maybe Sheehan with his triple backflip and stuff but he's the first one there signing autographs. He's the last one there that leaves. He gives away a scooter at almost every single stop. He does he does all his own video editing. He does all his own filming.
Wow.
So he's his own
brand.
He is complete
business.
Brand.
How old is he?
Right now he's 21 years old, And the amazing part is everyone gave him a hard time for riding a scooter. So he goes and wins the world championships on BMX and then pretty much sets it aside and goes, okay, now
I'm going to go back to my scooter thing.
Now go back to the scooters. Like, this is
He
legit.
won the world championships.
Yeah, he won Nitro World Games. I mean, not even close. Dominated. Big air. The biggest tricks. I mean, he's the only one to triple front flip a bicycle. He does like every week. Kid's amazing.
Wow.
1080 front flips, like 3 full twists and a flip on a BMX bike. It's not even. It's. They don't even have this in video games.
Really?
Yeah,
They don't?
I mean, we're working on that. But,
Wow.
So
Okay, so what would you say Nitro Circus is right now for people to understand it? It's a live tour and what else?
Well, Nitro Circus started from a bunch of kids, guys, having fun, pushing the limits in action sports. But right now, it is the best in the world of action sports. Trying to find a way for the top guys in the sport to be able to travel the world, follow their passion with the live shows in pretty much every country around the world. And then also...
you guys are on TV as well, right?
So we have NBC Sports, and then we have 2 specials a year on NBC. And then we just put together basically a world championship event for the big air type stuff. And
that was recently, right?
that was, recently had over like 5 million viewers live. So that was plus the internet stuff, which is actually, it's amazing. The internet, you get more views through that than you do on, even like an NBC or
TV.
a huge network now.
Yeah.
It's a wild thing. But NBC has been such a great partner for us because that allowed us to take these sports that were kind of a younger audience and take it to the masses to where anyone could really watch it.
Who's the most talented athlete in your minds in the Nitro Circus?
It's hands down our Willie.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's a freak of nature on trampolines. He's just got so much air awareness, and he rides. When he wakes up in the morning, 6 o'clock, he's at the skate park. And he's either on bicycles or scooters, or he's parkour, he's trampolines, he's diving boards. If there's a bridge somewhere, he's flipping off of it. Like, he just loves being in the air. He loves pushing himself. He loves trying stuff. So people are always like, oh, he's so naturally talented. I'm like, maybe, but if you were doing whatever your sport was 15 hours a day, you'd probably be pretty good at it too.
Yeah. He lives it. I mean, he's disciplined.
That's it. If he's not doing that, he's editing. Yeah.
He's shooting it, or he's got a team filming, and then he's editing it. Wow.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of Nitro Circus now is that we have not only with our in-house camera guys, but we have all the riders now are Brandon Schmidt, and they film each other.
Right.
And they really put their stuff together. Woodward is an action
a great
sports
camp, right?
Yeah, very good. So Woodward, this action sports camp, they actually have a camp now as well. So while some of the kids are learning how to ride bicycles and skateboards, they have an editing and social media film
at the camp.
So
that's cool.
Some of the guys cross transfer over, but a lot of the guys that we're hiring now on Nitro are coming out of that camp for just their editing.
That's cool.
So that's pretty neat.
Wow. I mean, video has done an incredible thing for all sports, really, but for action sports, when you guys are able to get it out there, so many people it becomes so much more popular, right?
Well, it's harder, I guess, to monetize where everyone's doing awesome stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that the beauty is there's no one that can't be a big name quick. Like people are like, how do I get on Nitro Circus? I'm like, simple. You do something that no one else has ever done. Where do I put it? I'm like, you put it anywhere. If
YouTube,
no one else
Instagram.
if no one else has ever done it,
people will see it.
People will see it. It will get out there. It will go. I mean, our Willie got like 50, 60 million views on the clip that he just put out. It's like, and obviously he's got more of a following, but like at the end of the day, I shouldn't say easy. You have to be an amazing athlete. But the thing is, you can't make a living now just on, I was good in the day. No, there's so many other kids coming up doing, and they're all have an outlet there. So it's awesome.
If there's a 13-year-old kid who's into this sport or any of these sports in the action sports and wants to follow their passion, and this could be any type of kid really, but if you're in the action sports and they want to make 6 figures a year, what would you say would be the path that they need to take in order to make a good living? Maybe they're never going to be the best or the most extreme, but like, hey, you can still make $100,000 a year doing the sport by doing what actions?
It's what's interesting with action sports, especially with how the internet's gone. If your goal is to make money, or your goal maybe as you're getting older is to stay relevant, you're already not relevant, or you will never make money. There's no amount of money in the world worth putting your body through the risks that these guys. I mean, people are always like, "Oh, if I got paid, 6-7 figures, I would do that."
No, you wouldn't.
Actually, you probably wouldn't. And you wouldn't, maybe you'd try it, but you wouldn't put the time and the effort and the injuries into getting there.
You got to fully love it.
So on that aspect, you have to really love it. But at a certain point, if you make it and you're good enough and you're still passionate about it when you get there, because that's another thing. I mean, a lot of kids, they finally make it and they're there. They're like, you know what? I'm just burnt out, which is awesome. And so, not
Too many
awesome,
injuries
but
or whatever,
I don't want to be hurt anymore. I don't want, but the amount of sacrifice and dedication and the hard work they put in, the guys that make it, even for a year, even for whatever, in action sports, have been able to then make it like business. For, at that point, is easy.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying business is easy, but it's something that, especially now, they have a little bit of credibility. It's like my friend who's a Navy SEAL. Went into the SEALs, didn't have anything when he went in, came out, and for him, like, things that stress out most people, like even me, I'm like, I got this. He's like, he's just laughing.
This is nothing. Yeah.
He's like, dude, yeah, whatever, man. And he's able to take what he's learned and the effort and the work and the pain. Real pain. Real risk and real and that level always changes depending on what job you take. But to take that back into a normal environment, you're then successful or can be successful.
Yeah, I mean, as an athlete, I feel like I had an advantage learning business. Like, yes, it was challenging to get started, and I had no clue what I was doing. But compared to 3-a-days in the heat in Ohio, at 110 degrees, and just getting beaten the head over and over and constant injuries, like figuring out how to market something wasn't that hard. You know what I mean? Compared.
Last year of Supercross, I was only 18 years old. I was on the way to the test track, and we get to the Suzuki test track up just Corona, California, not too far from here.
Yeah.
And we'd get there around 8:00, and we'd leave at 6 whenever it got dark. And it was hot. It was miserable. I'd never had any skin on my arms. I was always hurt. I was always sore. And on the way, there was a big crash, just on the freeway. And I was sitting there, and I was so happy. I was like, oh, thank goodness. I'm going to be like, I'll miss an hour. This is so great. And that's where I realized that, hey, this, action sports is where your heart is, not, putting in laps on Supercross track. But at the same time, like, when that makes something that most people are like so frustrated at just so much better that, when you're putting in 3 days, anything to get you out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're going to make it, obviously you're looking forward to those 3 days. You're like, I'm going to do bigger. I'm going to do better. I'm going to push it. If I'm hurting, I'm going to make sure that everyone else on the field is passed out.
Exactly. Yeah. If I'm almost passed out, they're passed out. Exactly. How do you get into flow when fear creeps in? Because obviously, I'm assuming you're not immune to fear. When you try something new, there's got to be some uncertainty for you. Even when you try something you've already done, there might be some fear in doing 3 backflips in a row at any moment. So how do you get into flow and overcome fear?
Repetition and practice. And the more bad experiences you're in, the more bad experiences that you will get in that you know how to get out of.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So,
Sure.
Like when you're in the air and everything's going wrong, but you've been in a similar situation, either it worked or it didn't work, but you're not relying on thinking. You're just doing it. And I feel like when you drop in to do something you've never done before, you already have an idea. You know what the takeoff feels like. You know what the pull feels like. You've tried it into a foam pit or an airbag or something. So for me, flow is simply repetition. It's knowing every part of my motorcycle or bicycle so in and out that no matter what happens, I'm not that concerned about it because I know how to get out of it. And that's why guys like R. Willie do so great, because every time they mess up one trick, they might invent another trick because they realize what spins or how that, so it's that mentally going, whatever this stunt, this trick, this jump, this day throws at me, I've got it covered because I've put in the work. The only time that I feel like I'm really out of flow is when I'm thrown in a different element. Like people are like, hey, here's some skis. I'm like, oh God, like I can't ski at all. But going down a hill, as soon as I get in the air, oh, all right, here we go. Back lay out. There we go. Let's do some spins. Okay. And then I land back on the skis and I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. So for me, flow is repetition.
That's cool. I like that. How many times do you think you've gone off a ramp on anything?
Oh my gosh. I mean, pretty much it was every day of my life for 10 years. 300 times a day.
Wow.
I was never great at math. Took the only major in college that I could kind of skip around that.
Sure. Okay. Thousands of times. Yes. Okay.
Hundreds of thousands, millions.
And do you have a daily routine or meditation practice or habits that are non-negotiable for you every single day?
For me, the hardest part is with travel and with family and with everything. It does get more challenging, but give me an hour on my road bicycle every day, and if I don't care if we get to bed at 3:00 and we have to get up at 5, like if I can just I'd rather not sleep and just get that time. For me, I was never good at sitting on a couch or sitting anywhere and just meditating still.
Yeah.
But on a road bike, I feel like, especially like around my house in Maryland, like it could be hot, it could be cold, it could be whatever, and just going out and there's not a lot of cars on the roads around the house, and there's some good bike trails, and just to put your music in and just have that time that's kind of alone, and you can the first little bit you kind of wind down, and then you have that little bit of that peace where you're just kind of riding, and you might be thinking about what's going on, and then you have that bit at the end where if you want to push it, you want to go a little hard, you want to see what you're made of again. Every day you're like, you promise you won't do it the next time, but you want to see if you can beat that record, and that's funny. So for me, that kind of covers all three of my bases.
So every day you ride the bike, or you try to ride the bike every day.
That is my goal. I mean, it used to be like try to get in 60 miles a day, and now it's like 60 miles a week. But you do what you can.
You do what you can. That's cool. I like that. That's your meditation. And your wife, you say your wife, she fully supports everything you do now. I mean, obviously you have 2 kids, correct?
Yes.
Does anything change for you when approaching the sport and going big?
No. Well, what's interesting, and we were just hanging out with a lot of our friends and family this last week from Nitro Circus, and most of us have kids now, and they were doing stuff that, I mean, like Child Protective Services probably would go, hey, that's dangerous, but when you're with this crew, like with Tony Hawk got so much trouble for riding with his one of his kids on a skateboard, but for Tony, like I would think his kid was way more safe on his skateboard than probably with one of his in-laws driving to McDonald's in a car seat.
Sure.
I don't know his in-laws at all, sorry, but
Right.
that's just with four-wheelers, with motorcycles, what we know, this is what we do. Like it's like my wife always trusts me, with the kids, with myself, because she knows that I'm not a careless person. I don't take a lot of risk. I more with myself than anything else, just because I like to win. One-upsmanship. But
of course,
at the end of the day, I'm not going to do that with base jumping, with skydiving, with stuff that I don't, not particularly not in flow with. Don't have the practice and the time. But my wife is probably the one that she is the one that scares me more than I scare her. Not necessarily with her on a skateboard, but now she's getting into motorcycles and car racing and all this stuff. And motors bring in all different speeds and jumps. And she's like, "This is so easy." And I'm like, "Just be careful. Like you don't know how close you are getting to. You haven't experienced that many crashes." Doug Henry, my greatest hero of all time growing up. His son won the national jump rope championship. Oh. And it was interesting. I was like, Doug, and Doug's paralyzed now. Did a backflip, paralyzed. He had a broken back, but they said he'd never ride again. His wife found a doctor and did some stuff, and they figured out a way. So he came back, won 2 national championships. This guy's been through everything. But he goes, look, I didn't ever get my kids involved with this because I know how many times I had to mess up before I understood what was going to work and what wasn't. And he goes, I still ended up in a chair. He goes, I have no regrets. I love my life, but at the same time, it's a hard thing. Like Lindsay knows skating. I don't know skating. Yeah. If I get on a skateboard, I'm going to fall and break myself off. I know I can't even go off a curb.
Right.
So if the kids are on a skateboard,
I can barely go straight on a street.
Exactly. They're with my wife, and they're with the motorcycle. They're with me. But it's an interesting dynamic how they see this stuff. My daughter, she sees double backflips, triple backflip, and that's Sheenie. That's like it's normal. So I'm a little nervous on that end to what she's gonna be like. Oh yeah, it's 100-foot jump. Yeah, I got that at 6.
Man. At 6, right? And what still drives you today after you've created so much, you've achieved so much, you've won everything, broken all the records?
Waking up with a passion.
Yeah.
Just waking up with that smile on your face, having something that you really want to do that day. And some days it's just not traveling. It's staying home with the family. And then you do that for enough days, and it's no longer, you're like, okay, this has been good, but what can I do? Like, where can we take Nitro Circus?
Yeah.
How can we provide a place where guys like me that are passionate, that love what they do, can make a living traveling around the world with their best friends. Mm-hmm. Like I've had the very fortunate life to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And can we keep action sports growing and I shouldn't say keep kids off of video games. I mean, video games are great, but it's like action sports were conventional sports, and then you had action sports in my generation. Now you have video games.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
And Pokemon Go.
Yeah. What?
It's like,
I almost got like running. I was at a stop sign. A guy came and just like almost ran into me. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. What are you doing?"
Catch a Pokemon.
Yeah, seriously. Anyway, but so that's for me. I just want my kids to be active, and I want them to be passionate. And
Right.
That's That's what I base my life around. So
Right. Is there any boundary that you have, or is there any limit that you don't think you'll be able to break in the next 5 to 10 years with technology and with how much you're seeing other guys do things and what they're able to do with their bodies and bikes and things like that? Is there anything that you're like, maybe one day I'll be able to do that, but...
Well, it's really hard to say because the first time I did a double backflip, I said, I'll never do a double backflip again. That was this craziest thing ever. And now, honestly, like, kids are warming up. Not kids, but, there's a 20-year-old Harry Bink. And he just looked at the jump. He hadn't even hit it before. Double backs it.
Really?
On a dirt bike. And I was like, you little punk.
And you were the first one to do it?
Yeah, in 2006. But, like, I'm just saying, like, things evolve. So
now.
it's, with evolution, ramps evolve. And so my job is to continually evolve these sports and make it as safe as we can while we're doing it.
Yeah.
So my backyard in Maryland is basically this huge, like, playland of just bags. And it's cool because I can still try these new tricks and try everything and work on all this stuff. And I do it to a bag. And then when someone goes, "Hey, you going to take it to dirt?" I'm like, "No, I'm old. That's your job. Good luck."
Yeah. Okay, so you'll do it to a bag, but you may not do it to a ramp.
Yeah, unless it's something that I really feel
You're
like
getting 10 out of 10.
It's every time. And if
Yeah.
it's if it's something huge and it's something that I can do every time, then
Sure.
yeah.
You give
I'm
it a
not
go.
saying I'm never going to do something
Yeah.
crazy again. Like this last tour, I had worked on all these ramps in my house, and one of the guys got hurt, and one of the guys didn't come on tour because he was practicing for World Games and X Games and all this stuff. And I was the only one in the world that could actually do the tricks that I'd set up. And I'm like, doggone it. So I had to do the whole tour, and it was the best tour of my life. But my wife was like, because every night I'm like so scared. I'm going out there and I'm trying. So, when you do thing one night, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But on tour, you got to do it night after night
That's
after
scary.
night. So I crashed one night real bad, and I'm bruised. My legs are purple. I could hardly breathe. Bruised ribs, shoulder sore. And I'm like, all right. And tomorrow night, too. My wife's like, you're not really going to get up. I'm like,
I got to.
That's what they paid to see. Give the
my
people what they want. So my goal is to always be that guy that can have 6 or 7 other guys that can learn what he's doing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And do it better.
That's cool. A few final questions for you, and I appreciate everything you've shared so far. This has been awesome. Personal question, what are you most grateful for in your life recently?
Oh, recently. That's a really, really tough question. I'd say the thing that I'm most grateful for is that my wife, even though she's in these sports, has been so good as a mother. I'm almost crying as I say it. It's just weird because you get older, you get tears, and it's just weird stuff. But
Sure.
So as I travel around a lot, it's difficult traveling with kids. Different time zones. One of them's sleeping, one of them's not. My wife, who always loved her sleep, like she didn't get less than 10 hours of sleep ever when we were dating, which is not like realistic.
Now she gets 4.
Yeah, if she's lucky, and she's been able to adapt to that and really embrace that. And she still skates. She still goes out and goes in the show. Not every night, but she went to World Games and she's like, you know what, I want to skate today. And she ran practice, and she's such a badass, but you never know it from her Instagram or anything. She never even puts anything of her. It's all just, kids, and she just loves being a mom. And I love being a father, but if I didn't have someone that was that good as a mom, I would probably have a mental breakdown. So I appreciate that part.
That's a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
awesome.
I know it's a lot, but my
that's
wife
great.
has adapted to being a mom so well, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. This is a question that I ask everyone at the end. It's called the 3 truths. It's called the 3 truths. So imagine it's many, many years from now. You've lived an incredible life, long life, and it's the last day for you, and everyone's there. All the people you care about, your friends, family. It's a celebration. But for whatever reason, all the videos you've shot of all the things you've said, this podcast isn't around anymore. All the stunts you've done have been erased from online. So no one can see what you've created. anymore for whatever reason. But they give you a piece of paper and a pen, and they say, we want you to write down the 3 things you know to be true about all the experiences in your life that you'd pass on to all of us. So what would you say are your 3 truths?
Number 1 is passion. If you're passionate enough about something, even if it's not exactly how you wanted it to be, you'll find a way to make it work. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if what goes around comes around is something, but I guess kind of stick with it. Because like I feel like there's a lot of people that get a lot of luck or people that get a lot of bad luck, and a lot of people with a lot of luck kind of change who they are, and a lot of people with a lot of bad luck quit. And I'd say what goes around comes around. If you just don't quit, because so many times I have so many friends that were just, something was just about to come through and they gave up. You know, which is fine. That's what they want to do. But it's like, I feel like
so
what
close.
goes around comes around. If you can just stick with it, if you can go through enough bad, you know, so kind of I got along the same lines.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, I think respect. I think respect is something that, you know, is earned over a lifetime. But if you can, you know, if you can always respect other people and you know, try to keep their respect, I think you're doing all right.
I like that.
And I'm not saying internet respect.
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm saying like
Human respect.
the people that are like, you know, really well.
Sure. Before I ask the final question, I want to acknowledge you for a moment, Travis, for your incredible joy and your incredible love and passion for what you do and bringing the sport to life and making it so well known for so many people around the world. Also, your commitment to your passion, because there are not a lot of people that I think are willing to do what you do for the love of their passion. They don't want to risk enough. And you're an incredible example of what's possible in the world for all of us. You're an incredible example in your sport as a human being from just our small interaction here, limited time. And to know that you can thrive in your sport and have a loving wife and loving kids and have an incredible family and have it all, and the business, it's such an inspiration. So I want to acknowledge you for just who you are in the world, man. It's amazing.
Thanks for having these podcasts, man.
Yeah,
Awesome.
of
Appreciate
course. Before I ask the final question, where can we follow you online? Where do you hang out the most? Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, where are you at? What should we follow? NitroCircus.com. What can we do right now to support you?
Oh man, basically just Nitro Circus and their athletes. I mean, you go on Nitro Circus Facebook. I'm more of an Instagram. I know they're all Snapchats coming around, but I'm
Instagram
I'm old-
stories,
I'm-
man.
Yeah, there
Instagram
you
stories
go.
is getting big.
You know, I just finally switched over. I'm still Facebook, but I just found like I have a hard time with Facebook in that every time you post something, it's just mostly just like if you're riding 2 feet with your kid and you're not putting a helmet on. I know I should always wear a helmet, but like, you know, it's just a lot of people that are just
like
angry.
Negative feedback.
Yeah, it's very negative. So I feel like Instagram is a
more supportive.
a little, not even supportive, just my people.
Yeah, sure.
So I've been sticking with that for now. But
yeah.
no, NitroCircus.com, and just you know, be sure to check out Nitro Circus. And if you want to see, like, honestly, come to a show. Every parent goes, you know, I came for my kids, and then halfway through I was standing up and cheering, and I haven't felt like that in so long. Thank you. A mom said, sorry, not to take up too much time, but
No, go ahead.
the thing that I think made me smile the most in this last year was a mom came up to me and like grabbed me a little violently at the end, like come over here. I was like, all right. She goes, I just want to thank the crew down here, all the guys, all the riders.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I was afraid to have my kid ride a skateboard. I didn't like the image. I didn't like what I had seen or
whatever,
what. It's like, you know, staying out late, going, you know, not vandalism, but that's just how she kind of viewed everything. And, you know, with skating down parks or streets or something like that. And she goes, what I saw here was a bunch of friends having an awesome time. And if my kid can ever find a group that embraces him, that loves him, that is as half as supportive as this crew, then I have done a good job as a parent. So thank you for bringing this crew together. So I think for Nitro Circus, I think that beyond anything, like the world's first or not world's first, people, I think, especially the parents, relate to just
That's cool.
a bunch of good people having a good time.
And do you guys tour all over the world, over the U.S.? There's a schedule online, right?
Yeah, online. They have all the schedules, but basically we'll go all over U.S. We'll do a regional tour, hit some of the smaller cities, and then a bigger tour. The bigger tours have all the top guys. The regional tours sometimes are split up a little bit, but definitely always a lot of fun.
So all the information's on nitrocircus.com, right?
Greg, what do we do?
NitroCircus.com, and then at Nitro Circus for Twitter and Instagram.
At Nitro Circus on social media, nitrocircus.com.
He's on it.
He's
Greg's the man.
He's got it. Awesome. Final question for you. This has been a great time. I really loved connecting with you. And if there's anything I can do personally to support, just let me know. The final question is, what is your definition of greatness?
See, you got all these just very deep questions. So, I mean, right off the top of my head, I think greatness is being able to have the confidence to do what you love to do and to do it well enough that you have the people around you that you love that still want to do it with you.
Travis, you're the man. Thanks, man.
Good to see you, sir.
Appreciate it. Hey guys, Lewis Howes here, and thanks so much for checking out this video and this interview. I hope you loved it. If you did, make sure to leave a comment below and share this with your friends. Also, I've got a huge announcement. The Summit of Greatness is coming very soon. If you love the School of Greatness podcast, if you love these interviews and you want more, you want to connect with some of these speakers in person, you want to connect with me and other people just like you who watch and listen to these interviews, then make sure to sign up for the Summit of Greatness. Go to summitofgreatness.com to learn more. You can check out more about the video that we created for the summit. There's a link in the description below as well. It's summitofgreatness.com. Check it out right now. I hope to see you there. And again, thanks so much for watching this video.